Hi there everybody, welcome to another Math School video. Today we are going to be looking at time, alright? So we're going to look at analog clocks, and we're going to look at reading analog clocks. We're going to talk about speaking time, and we're going to look at the conversion between an analog clock and a digital clock as well. Okay, so let's get going. So first of all, an analog clock. Well, what is an analog clock? Well, an analog clock is set to 12 hours time only, and it measures the time using an hour hand, which moves around the clock forward one number every hour, and then of course a minute hand, which also moves around the clock, but that moves around a number every 5 minutes after 12. All right, so what does that mean? All right, probably best to kind of have a look at some kind of examples and see the actual what it looks like. So when you're looking at telling the time with an analog clock, you look at the position of the two hands that are on the clock. The minute hand is always the longer one, which of course means the hour hand is the shorter one. So that's always the case in all analog clocks. So when you're looking at identifying the time, they're the two key things. So the minute hand is the longer one, and hour hand is the shorter one. So as the minute hand moves around the clock clockwise, so does the hour hand. So they both move around, but at different paces. So in terms of clockwise, so just looking at my cursor, clockwise would be going around the clock in this particular direction, so that way around. So they both move around in that direction there. All right, hopefully you can see that okay. So as the minute hand moves around, so does the hour hand, and the hour hand is therefore usually in between two numbers when being read, simply because the minute hand goes around a bit faster, so the hour hand is often in between two numbers. All right, it's only when it's exactly 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock does the actual hour hand land on the actual number. Okay, so if the hour hand is pointing towards the 3, as the example is showing, okay, so you can see it over here. If I just kind of click, so you can see the shorter hand is pointing towards 3, so that means it's 3, and the minute hand is at the top. That means this is 3 o'clock exactly. All right, so it's not moved around any more than the top. So that is basically what we call 3 o'clock. So the hour hand is on 3, and the minute hand is effectively on 0. All right, we don't have a 0, but it would, as you hopefully can see, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so on and so on. So this is 3 o'clock. So as the minute hand moves around, and you can see that happening at the clock on the right hand side, you can see hopefully that the hour hand has moved on to 4, all right, but the minute hand went all the way around to get back up to this, all right. So each one of these numbers going around here represents 5 minutes, because there are 60 minutes in an hour. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55. What would be 60, but we're now on the next hour. So this represents 4 o'clock exactly. All right. So as the minute hand moves around, each value represents 5 minutes. And so time goes up accordingly. All right. So let's look at some examples and read some analog clocks. Probably the best way of kind of doing this. So like I said, as before, analog clock is set to 12 hours, so you can't tell whether it's morning or afternoon. We'll come on to that a little bit later, but we can just hopefully read the time. So looking at this particular clock, look to read the time from the clock. So we can see the two hands over here. So the longer hand, which is the minute hand, is on the 2, and the hour hand is just past 3. Okay, so we know that it's in between 3 and 4, and like I mentioned before, it's often in between two numbers, but we're looking at what it's after. So this is after 3 o'clock, so it's 3 something. All right, so now we'll look at the minute hand, and what we talk about is, well, this is where it's 3 o'clock exactly here, and we move around every 5 minutes. So 5, 10. Okay, so this is 10 minutes past 3 o'clock. All right, 10 minutes past 3 o'clock. So like I said, we identify their hand by looking at the small hand, which we've done here. It's after 3, but it's before 4, so it's 3 something. We look at how many minutes past the minute hand is, and we mentioned so it's 10 minutes. So the time here is 10 past 3. And like I said, I couldn't tell you from just looking at this particular if it's morning or afternoon, because it doesn't work that way, but it's definitely 10 past 3. Okay, so let's have a look at another one. All right, so following the same process as before, we are looking at the two hands and where they are. So we're looking at the hour hand, and we're looking at the minute hand. Well, here, this is after 4, but it's not quite reached 5. So it's definitely 4 something. Okay, 4 something. If it was 5 exactly, then this minute hand would be up here. All right, so we're not quite there. So counting from here going round, it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. This is 50 minutes past 4 o'clock. All right, so just looking at that again. So we looked at the hour, and it's 4 something, and then identify how many minutes longer a hand is past, and we counted round, which was 50. So this is going to be classed as 4:50. All right, and again, not quite sure if it's AM or PM. So that's all we do to read analog clocks. And if you need some practice, get yourself some maths-school.co.uk and have a look at some questions on there and get some practice on some of these. All right, so we are going to look at drawing analog clocks. So there are 2 hands, we know that now. The short one represents the hour hand, and the long one represents the minute hand. And you're going to be given the time with technically 2 numbers. All right, you've got the first bit, which is going to be the 10, which is the number of hours. All right, and then you've got the minutes, which is the number of minutes after the hour position, so 10 o'clock. So this is 25 minutes past 10 o'clock, is how we would say it. And these 2 values determine, of course, where the hands go. All right, so let's look at an example and determine how you go about doing this. Now, there's no right or wrong. You can put the minute hand in there first. You can put the hour hand in there first. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to do it. So I'm going to put the minute hand in first because I know exactly where that's going to go. All right. So here I've got 20 minutes past. All right. So I'm going to go straight over here and consider where the minutes will be. So this, we know this is exactly on the hour, so zeros. And this is going to be 5, 10, 15, 20. So I know the minute hand is going to be pointing at the 4 because that means 20 minutes past. All right, so we're going to place the long hand on the clock going towards the 4 because that represents 20 minutes. And you can just see that being displayed on screen now. All right, so that's the first bit. Now we're going to consider where the hour hand goes. Now we know it's 6. Okay, so really what I should be thinking, right, it goes down towards 6, but of course it doesn't exactly, because like I said before, both hands are moving around all the time, but one's slower than the other. We know that it's 20 minutes past this position, but it's not reached 7 o'clock here, so it must be somewhere in between 6 and 7. Yeah. Now because we're thinking the fact that this goes around for a full 60 minutes, well, 20 is actually a third of 60. So that means it must move along here 1/3 of the distance. So roughly around about here, I would say. So again, so this is my estimation. I know that it's not exactly half past. I know it's not right in the middle here. But so it must be just slightly to the right of that. Okay, so that's where I'm going to position it. And again, if you were in an exam, if you were doing this in an examination or an assessment, then the accuracy of this wouldn't be tested too much. They want to consider the fact that it's nearer the 6 than it is the 7, and certainly not on the 6 and certainly not on the 7. All right, so you're going to place the shorter hand closer to 6 than closer to 7, and that's how you go about drawing analog clocks. So you look at the numbers, minutes, and then you look at hours. And like I said, you could do it the other way around. It doesn't make a difference, but of course your positioning of the hour hand is going to be dependent on the position of the minute hand. So if this minute hand was a lot further round, then this 6 hour hand would be moving closer towards 7 as it goes around. All right, so that's drawing analog clocks. So by all means, if you need a bit of practice on that, then get yourself onto maths-school.co.uk and have a go at some of the kind of practice questions on there. Right, so we're going to look at finally converting between 12 and 24-hour times. All right, so 12 and 24 hours is relatively straightforward. If it's in the morning, then it's quite straightforward because it's just morning and the time is as it is. But if it's in the afternoon, then we need to identify that it's somehow later on in the day, and that's where 24-hour time kind of comes into play. So because an analog clock shows only 12 hours, they're classed as 12-hour clocks, and if you were to write it down, you need to specify morning or afternoon. That is given as AM or PM. All right, so morning is in AM and PM is in the afternoon. So 24 clocks go above 12, so that they can kind of identify and represent that you don't need the AM and PM. So that's the difference between the two. So if you're going to say 2:45 in the afternoon, you might say 2:45 PM. But a 24 o'clock wouldn't do that. It'd have a bigger number. All right, we'll show you what that means. So we're going to look at converting 12-hour clock to 24 first of all. All right, so how do I convert 9:45 AM to a 24-hour clock? Well, this is quite straightforward, because when we're talking about a 24-hour clock, we are starting at 0, which is midnight, and we are going to move upwards, essentially. So 9:45 in the morning is just going to be written as 09:45. All right, and we have 2 digits to show that we are talking about a 24-hour clock. All right, that's often what you see. The 2 digits to H, and H represent hour, and then 45. Okay, and we don't put AM because we're writing 24-hour clock. It's 9:45. 3:18 PM to a 24-hour clock. Now, if you consider and think about the fact that the time here is after lunchtime, well, lunchtime, well, in my world, it's at 12 PM, so that's midday. But once you pass 12 PM, on a 12-hour clock, you would then go to 1. It would start all over again, which is what we've got here. We've got this 3. But with a 24-hour clock, we need to identify and tell people that we've actually continued to go up in the day, or along with the day. So once you get to 12 PM, we carry on the numbers. The numbers continue to go up. So we don't go reset to 1 PM. We basically carry on. So we go from 12, and then we go to 13, 14, 15. So we add on 12 to this digit at the front, because it's we haven't reset the numbers like we would do on an analog clock. We're going to continue up. All right. So really, all you do with a PM is you're going to add 12 to this first digit. All right. So for afternoon times, you just add 12 to the hour. So this will be written 15:18, and you can see there if you took 12 off it, then it'd be 3:18. And of course, we don't write AM or PM because we're now in 24-hour clock, so it's 15:18. And this is what they're using naval and army, that kind of thing, is to avoid confusion. All right, so it's 15:18. That would be kind of read as. All right, okay. So that's the example. Well, what about if we work the other way? Of course, that's going to happen, isn't it? So if you want a 24-hour clock to a 12-hour clock, well, if you've got 09:45 to a 12-hour clock, well, this is quite easy. You can see you've got 0 here. So this is, again, going to be in the morning. So we're just going to drop the 0 and write 9:45 AM. Okay, so that's the bit here, AM. So morning times. So this is where the hour is 11 or less. All right, so once you get to 12 PM, so I should say 12 midday, that is classed as 12 PM. All right, 12:00. So 11:59 is morning, and as soon as you hit 12, it is 12 PM. All right, so just something to be aware of. It's not something you come across that often, but ultimately, yeah, the 12s, midday is 12 PM. So therefore, 12 AM is at midnight. All right, and that, but I'll come to that in a second. I'll revisit that in a second. All right, so yes, so this one is 9:45 AM, and please don't forget the AM if you've dropped the 0. All right, so 18:45 to a 12-hour clock. Well, in this case, previously we were adding 12, so in this case we're going to remove the 12, and we're going to take 12 off the 18, which is going to leave us at 6:45. But we're in the afternoon, so it's going to be 6:45 PM. All right, so where the hour is 12 or more, you need to subtract 12 to it. Okay, right, and there's a little kind of special case, and this is the one I was kind of talking about, and these are the ones just kind of be aware of, really. So when you've got a time like this, all right, so 00:45 to a 12-hour clock. Now this is early in the morning. Really early in the morning. It's midnight, and then we're just after midnight, and we've reset because we're in a new day. We are 45 minutes into a new day, and it's 00:45. And if we want to convert that to a 12-hour clock, well, this 00 is, if you think about midnight being 12 AM, then this would be classed as 12:45. But of course, you can't take 12 off 00. You've just got to remind yourself the fact that it's a 12-hour clock and it goes from 12 and up to 24, and then it goes back down again. So we kind of, for this one, we just need to know that it's if it's 12 or less, then we would normally subtract, the 12 off it, but of course we can't. So in this case, we have to write this one as 12:45. So if you see a 00, it's 12 something. All right, and it's 12:45 a.m. All right, so that's how you would write this particular one. All right, so I had to mention it, really worth mentioning, because it's often the one that kind of people kind of trip on. All right, so 24 o'clock goes from 23:59, which is 11:59 p.m., and then the next minute it's 0000, resets to 0 because we've got to 24 hours, and that's classed as 12 a.m. All right, so that is something to be note of. Okay, so that is analog and digital clocks in essence that we're going to kind of cover today. But please do go to maths-school.co.uk, have a look at that kind of content on there, and get some practice on some of these. And of course, the easiest way to do this is get yourself a clock and just practice converting between the two. The more you read the time on clocks, the easier it will become for you. Okay, well, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon.